Hello, everyone. It is the Prophet Michael David, aka Aries, and I hope everyone's having a great day. All right, getting right to the thumbnail and title of this video. Why do I consider myself a Hebrew, the first one to walk to Earth in over 3,000 years, and the last one ever? Is because I claim to be that guy. Specifically, I claim to be his reincarnation, and that guy is named Yosef, eldest son of Raquel and 11th son and 12th child overall of Jacob, he who was the first Israel. To most of the world, he is most commonly known as Joseph in the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And if some of you are like, oh, I remember watching that play in junior high, yeah, me too. So Yosef, or Joseph, was third generation Hebrew and um, the patriarch of his own tribe of Israel, the tribe of Joseph, which is as his reincarnation, which is why I can call myself Hebrew. Okay, now we're going to go over a brief history of Hebrewism and how the Hebrews turned into the Jews. And this, remember, this is long before Christianity and Islam existed. For the record, just up front, I consider the first Hebrew to be Abraham and the last Hebrew to be Solomon. And now we'll go through the history. All right, the first two Hebrews were Abram and Sarai, later to be renamed Abraham and Sarah. Now, Abraham found God and became a prophet, and here's the most important part. He made a personal deal with God, which extended to his genetic descendants. I'm not going to go into all the stories, but late in life, Abraham and Sarah were blessed with a miracle baby when Sarah was 99, and that baby was named Isaac. Abraham also had one other son, an older son from another woman, and that man was named Ishmael. That's Islam. We'll talk about that later. Isaac eventually married a woman named Rebecca, and they had two sons, twins. The eldest was named Esau, and the one that came shortly thereafter was named Jacob. Jacob eventually had 13 children, 12 sons, across four different women, two wives and two handmaidens of his wives, indentured servants, slaves, call them what you will. But he had 13 children and 12 sons. And those 12 sons eventually went on to become patriarchs of their own houses. And those are the 12 tribes of Israel. And here's the really important part for those people that don't know the difference. This is the first time in the story, third generation Hebrew, where Jewish people come into play, because all Jewish people are descendant from Judah. And Judah was the fourth born son of Jacob, he who became Israel, and his wife Leah. And again, from that exact same generation, third generation of Hebrew, Jacob's 11th born son and firstborn son to Raquel is Joseph, the man who I claim to be reincarnated from Joseph in the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. All right, here's another really important part, another crux of my argument, is that third generation Hebrews, between the 12 tribes, there was about 70 of them. And through reasons that are in the Bible or you can find online, Joseph made them all move to Egypt, where they eventually became slaves for over 400 years. But here's my point. So you have the 12 original tribes of 70 people that lived in the Middle East, and then Joseph made them move to Egypt. And then there were more indentured servants when they got there than slaves. And then 400 years, some years later, they were pretty much full slaves, but there was about 600,000 of them instead of 70, which is one of the reasons why Pharaoh feared them. Pretty much the main reason he feared them. It was just a lot of them. But all throughout that, even to Exodus, they're still Hebrews. All the 12 tribes are still together. So then the Exodus happened. Again, the Bible or online if you want to know more about it. And they eventually ended up wandering for 40 years in the desert with that ark. Again, look it up if you want to know when and where the ark came in to the story. But through all that, they were still Hebrews because the families were still together. And they finally got into the land, which is currently misnamed Israel, and they took over Jerusalem and had a whole bunch of kings until they got to King David, who found the first spot to build the first temple. I know I'm skipping a lot of detail on the history, but you can all look it up if you want to. I'm just trying to define what I considered a Hebrew and when the Hebrews ended. So, all the way up to David, read up on Goliath and stuff if you want to, or his relationship with Saul. But eventually, David becomes king and he finds the spot on the Temple Mount to build the first temple, which he doesn't, but he establishes what's called the tabernacle, the tent, up there and puts the ark in it. And then he dies and his son Solomon takes over. Again, this is skipping a lot of history. If you want to learn more about it, just look up David and Bathsheba. That was Solomon's mom, and that whole situation. I'll give you a whole new light on King David. But then when Solomon finally took over, he had to fight off a couple coups as well. He's the one that's known for dealing or having the relationship with the Queen of Sheba. He's the one that built the first temple around that initial tabernacle that David built on the mount. And he's one of the most famous ones of all time. But then Solomon dies and creates a huge power vacuum. And that's really the end of the Hebrews, because shortly thereafter, they fight over the kingship. And 10 out of the 12 tribes move north and establish a kingdom called the Kingdom of Israel. And in the south, the final 3 tribes, there was actually 13 because the tribe of Joseph had already broken up into the tribe of Manasseh and Ephraim, and they all went north. The only 3 that stayed in the south and they controlled Jerusalem were the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, and the tribe of Levi, the Levites. And that, in my definition, was the end of the Hebrews. And those 10 tribes that moved to the north and made the kingdom of Israel, a couple hundred years later, the Assyrians came down and conquered them and took them off to Assyria, and they were never heard from again. Hence the term the 10 lost tribes of Israel. There's still people to this day that claim to be descendants of those 10 tribes, but in the ancient times, they never returned back to Jerusalem. The southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah, that consisted of the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, and the tribe of Levi, did fight off the Assyrians, but then like 100 years later, the Babylonians came and conquered them, destroyed the first temple, and dragged them off to Babylonia. And then the rest of the story is probably, you at least know the basics between the destruction of the first temple, the destruction of the second temple by the Romans, and then the current state of the Holocaust, and then the current state of Judaism in the world up to these days. And as a side note, to be totally honest, over the last 3,000 years, I have no idea what happened to the tribe of Benjamin. Obviously, Jewish people are the tribe of Judah, and there still are Levites, the tribe of Levi. They're not Jewish. They're in a community with the Jewish people, but they're not from the same tribe. They're from the tribe of Levi. And ironically, and I'm prophetically speculating here, if the ark still exists, I don't think the Jewish people or rabbis know where it is, because they weren't the ones that were charged by God to be in charge of it. That was the tribe of Levi. Both Moses and his brother Aaron were Levite. They weren't Jewish. So if there's anybody, if the ark still exists, the Levites probably know where it is. Which kind of brings me to the point of this video, other than defining my terms. A lot of modern Jewish scholars and rabbis, talk about Jewish history going all the way back to Abraham or Moses. And that's really not quite true, because that's not Jewish history, it's Hebrew history. And another thing, and probably the most important fact from all these stories, if you can define, the types of people in that way, is God Hashem has never made a covenant or a deal with a Jewish person. It's always been a Hebrew. Abraham, Isaac to a point, Jacob, but even God admitted to Moses that she hid part of herself, and though she revealed more to Moses. But again, as I said shortly earlier, Moses and Aaron were not Jews either. They're from the tribe of Levi. In conclusion, what I'm saying is to all modern rabbis, or I guess Jewish scholars that say Hashem promised them a Mashiach and a messianic age and all that goes with it. No, not really. Hashem promised that to the Hebrews, which is why I'm charged by God to bring Geula, redemption, peace, whatever you want to call it, not just to the tribe of Judah. That's why I call you guys the tribe of Judah a lot, but to all the tribes. All right, good talk. I think that's about it for today. My next video, I think, is going to be more math stuff, because I found even a better model that tracks the primes. It just takes time to build the spreadsheets and everything. And after that, I'll probably go into the 36 days of Armageddon. And then after that, probably elaborate on my claims. I got plenty of stuff to talk about. So as always, do not hurt each other, and try not to lie. And I'll talk to you guys later.